Oh yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, you know, if there's a bit of danger in the air, if somebody's run somebody over with a van on London Bridge or something, then it's perfectly acceptable that you completely throw out all of the Western traditions of moral behaviour. What are they building? I'm not actually talking about the building work either. I'm talking about a very worrying thing I've been reading today from the National Centre for Social Research. So I've actually been thinking about recently quite a lot. What have the recent terrorist attacks done to public opinion? Are people now willing to give up their rights because of terrorism? Well, I was thinking about that, and now we have the answer through the National Centre for Social Research. That indeed, yes, the recent terror attacks have really altered public opinion, and people seemingly now are willing to give up all of their rights just for a bit of security. It's now established. They always talk about when they're pushing for some kind of social change that it's done in a kind of evidence-based way. And where does that evidence actually come from? Well, it comes from reports from all of these institutions that have their big brains thinking about how society should function, etc. And the report I've been reading today is frankly terrifying in terms of how easy it will be to manipulate the data that's taken from studies to actually then affect the very course of civilization. I'll give you some examples. I have to read it out as well, it's going to be quite awkward. Okay, so the first thing that it says is that 7 in 10 people believe the authorities should have the right to stop and search people at random if a terrorist attack is suspected. It says which police officers can only currently do with reasonable grounds and if a senior police officer is advised in advance. So 7 in 10 people think they should have the right to stop and search people at random. And the fact, you know, when a terrorist attack is suspected, like a suspected terrorist attack, I mean, that's so malleable. How possibly could people like give up the fucking reins of their own freedom to say, oh, possible, oh yeah, no problem, just stop everybody in the street, no problem whatsoever. 8 in 10 people think the state should have the right to keep people under video surveillance in public areas. Now, just to sort of deal with that quickly, anyone has the perfect right to video anyone in public areas, including the state. So it's a very misleading question, and I wonder about the very structure of this. I mean, they're like trying to convince people that they're not actually supposed to take the images themselves, but rely on the state to do it for them. And we all know that, like, when actually an event happens, CCTV magically doesn't work. This is possibly the most worrying one. It says the report, called British Social Attitudes, published by the National Centre for Social Research, also reveals that more than half the population, 53%, would support detaining people indefinitely without putting them on trial, which the law currently restricts to 14 days. I mean, I've sort of touched on this topic before, but I mean, God, that's one of the founding moral principles of human behaviour as ingratiated in all versions of Magna Carta since 1215, wherever, or even since 1197 or whatever it is. It's insane. We should imprison people without trial, is what 53% of the population apparently believe. I'd like to think that they've been so affected by the terrible events that have happened in London over the last few months that they're just not thinking correctly, or maybe they just haven't been educated in morals or whatever. But yeah, it's really worrying, because that's the sort of scientific evidence-led leadership or whatever that will end up affecting the country to the point where, you know, oh well. I'd like to think that possibly the internet does actually allow sanity to slowly creep in. So I'd like to think this is just sort of pomposity and surface, and it's just the institutions like trying to use their influence and power, and I just really hope that they fail. Yes, that's right, I want civil society, as they call it, to fail.